Hey, what is up YouTube? Andrew Rooney here. We're back with the Q&A. So I made a video a few days ago just asking if anyone had any questions that they wanted me to dig in perhaps a little bit deeper on a separate video, and here we are. So without further ado, I'm a little bit scared, but we're going to get into it. All right, the first question here is from Zach Gall. What's up, Zach? I hope you're doing well out there. And he's asked, how old were you when you had your first kit? Now, I got my first kit, I think, it's a little bit hard to remember now, but I think I got it when I was about 16 years old. I started quite late. I had a few friends who were playing drums, and, every now and then I'd just try and get them to show me something, and I was certainly not talented, if talent's a thing. I was not very good. So I needed a bit of help, and in the end a few of them were kind enough to give me bits and pieces, and I had a very, very ghetto drum kit. My first drum kit was kick, snare and hi-hats. That's it. So two-piece drum kit with hi-hats, and there was no chain in the hi-hat pedal. That was held together with a shoelace, believe it or not. And I learnt on that. And looking back, it was really good because it forced me to concentrate on groove at the expense of, when I did get a full drum kit, being really comfortable to venture away from home base over in this position and go over to the toms and over to that side of the kit. I think I got my first full drum set when I was about 18, and I just had to save up for that and get that myself. Next question is from Flying Hussar 303. What's your worst drumming bad habit you have or had? That's an interesting one. That's a really good question. I really do feel like I've ironed out a lot of the bad habits. I think pre-music school, a bad habit was perhaps over-practicing, not playing enough music with human beings. And I would say generally probably playing a bit too loud and a bit too hard hands. And I could get into a few nightmare stories. Well, one in particular, early on, one of my first, I guess it wasn't a big gig, but there were a lot of people there, and I got really self-conscious and nervous, and that manifested in me holding my sticks too tight, and it was a bit of a nightmare. Oh, if you want me to go further into that story, this is probably not the time to really dig into that story, but I can dig into that in a future video if you like. But I would say the worst habit I had was tension, holding too much tension on my body, possibly being a bit nervous, and holding your sticks too tight. Holding the sticks too tight just kills everything. Obviously no rebound, you lose all your technique, speed, everything just sort of goes out the window, and you're in survival mode. Really bad news. So hope that answers your question. Next question is from Rich Swift. Question, what's the best takeaway you've gained from doing the reaction videos? A new drummer discovery, a skill you've tried to implement, or even a new band you've checked out? Thank you for being consistent and providing a fun release from the monotony of lockdown life. Thank you so much, Rich. I really appreciate that final little comment there. And that was actually the kicker that got me started on these videos back roughly this time last year when we went into lockdown here, and I noticed that people were really tense and freaking out. As you do, it was a really uncertain time, and a lot of us are still in really uncertain times. I had been doing a lot of personal work, interior kind of work for myself around that time, and I wasn't freaking out. So I thought, if I can just somewhat make people happy or brighten up people's day with these kind of videos, I thought that would be really helpful, and it kicked off much bigger than I thought it would. Anyway, to get to your actual question, the best takeaway you've gained from doing the reaction videos. I think the biggest takeaway has been the absolutely enormous audience for things like extreme metal. It absolutely blows me away. I don't know if the audience is bigger or if they're just very loyal They're very passionate. That whole world, which I was literally did not know anything about, that has really blown me away. A new drummer discovery. Well, look, critically listening to guys like Gavin Harrison and Larnell Lewis, who are two standouts for me, is just, it's absolutely mind-blowing. What those guys can do is just, as someone who's been drumming a long time, it is just insane. New band, I thought The Warning were really cool. That was one video when I watched that Warning one where I thought, man, I would love to be in this crowd. I would love to be out there seeing this live concert. I'll say The Warning for band. As far as the skill I've tried to implement part of your question, Rich, I think I've actually probably started thinking more about the advanced aspects of drumming, which I completely dropped after leaving music school. I just went right back to basics, and I've been doing that ever since, really, which has served me really well, but I've done it to death. And I feel like I found myself with working through a polyrhythm book a few weeks back, and I thought, man, don't know if I would be doing this if it wasn't for the reaction videos, because I see guys like Alex Rudinger and all these extreme guys, and they just modulate and all this really advanced stuff. And I think subconsciously it's made me rethink or take time to reevaluate where I'm at with my drumming and what I should be working on to push myself and keep improving. Next one is for Salty Showers. It's not your real name, is it? Hi, Andrew. My question is if you can do on, let's say, a monthly or quarterly basis, a video in which you cover a specific part of drumming and the necessary skills to execute that. Of course, it would be great if you support that with some examples instead of a reaction video. You get a more proactive video that bears your signature, including the proactive coffee and funny remarks. It is a lot more work, but it's something of which I think you are the person to do that in a proper way. Have a great weekend. Thank you, Salty. Look, I have a bunch of tutorial style videos on my channel. There's over 900 videos on my channel now. If you dig back, you'll find all kinds of stuff. I even did a 30-day single thing where you can follow along each day with a video, 30 videos in 30 consecutive days to definitely improve your single stroke roll. So I have done this kind of stuff before. You are right. It is a lot more work. And honestly, it's just time. I've got so many things that, I write down every idea I have. I've got pages of stuff that I want to do. Reality is doing these videos, there's so much demand for these videos now. I've got a whole heap of Patreon and PayPal selections to get through. So it just comes down to time. In between me gigging a couple of times a week, teaching 6 days a week, having a family that I need to see at some point, and making these videos, it's just time. I would love to do that. There will be more teaching type stuff coming, but it's just a time thing, man. Carmel Music Department. Rooney, why is your hi-hat pedal so fast? My hi-hat pedal is so fast because it's red. All you need to do out there is paint your hi-hat pedal red and it will go faster. Kansas Cayman S. Hi, Andrew. Who were your biggest musical and drumming influences? Great question. I love this kind of stuff. So my biggest musical influences were with everybody. That's what you heard when you were a teenager. That's a really formative part of your life. So I get all the Rush and John Bonham or Led Zeppelin fans who can't believe that I don't know about Rush and Led Zeppelin. Well, it's because that's what you listened to when you were a teenager. So when I was a teenager, it was all about grunge, hip-hop kind of stuff. And yeah, so I grew up listening to a lot of Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, not so much Nirvana. I came to respect Nirvana quite a few years later. All kinds of stuff. My taste is actually pretty diverse, despite not knowing a lot of the picks that you guys do or request for me. I've got a massive soul music CD collection, a whole bunch of jazz stuff, from when I was doing music school. Drumming influences. I would say the three big ones for me are Tony Thompson, Matt Chamberlain, and number one by a country mile, my favorite, Jeff Porcaro. Jason Person. Since you've been introduced to so many amazing metal drummers, have you gave any of the metal drumming techniques a whirl? Blast beats, heel toe, swivel, kick, drum, or anything that has intrigued you? Yeah, man, good question. So, have I given it a whirl? I honestly haven't had time to dig in and practice any of that stuff much, if not at all. I already employ some kind of foot technique anyway, probably more heel toe, or a little bit of slide, a little bit of heel toe. But it is really interesting. Your question's great because it's actually really alerted me to student queries. I always get student queries regarding foot technique. So watching all these videos has really made me aware of and alert to a lot of those questions, and I'm able to answer them a lot better and actually send them off to this thing or show them this technique. So I've actually used it a bit more on the teaching side than my personal playing. I'm not often playing stuff that requires anything extreme. And I only use a single kick. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. My buddy Nathan McIntyre. Hey Andrew, what was your first custom tune on your kit? Do you have a preferred note? Do you have a preferred note on your snare and or kick? I'm currently trying to learn more about tuning and would love some pointers. Ooh, tuning the drum kit, man, that is a can of worms. Honestly, I'm always shocked at the tuning videos that are online that just seem so complicated. It blows my mind. I get called to do house calls where I go and tune people's kits, go tune a church drum kit, studio kit, whatever. I'm doing that quite a bit these days. Yeah, it's a little bit of science, a little bit of art, to be honest. I do have a tune bot. I like the tune bot. Perhaps recommend getting one of those. I have found the tune bot is really good if I'm doing a session and I need the toms to sound essentially perfect. Recordings are pretty brutal and you want your toms to sound right on a recording. Kick and snare though, I really do swear by doing the kick and snare just by ear and by touch. And preferred note, like tuning a drum kit to a key, the key of the song, don't go there. Don't go there, Nathan. Now, I've talked to a lot of engineer and producer buddies about this. Not a thing. I'm not saying it's not a thing in the sense that it won't work. I'm just saying it's probably not worth the time and effort, and drum kits aren't in tune like a guitar or a bass are in tune. They can drift, and depending on where you hit on the head, you could be getting funny overtones. I think you're getting into more trouble than it's worth. Remind me in the future to do a tuning video because some of the tuning stuff that's around is absolutely mad and I don't agree with it. Nick Christie, I feel like I should have a good question for you, but I really just keep coming back to A, Van Damme, and B, you hardly knowing any famous rock from before a certain era, and C, you seem like a very nice guy. Thanks, Nick. Yeah, just like I said on one of the previous questions, everybody basically gets stuck in whatever music they listen to when they're a teenager. It's just such a big time in your life. And you're starting to, experience things, and without going into the birds and the bees, it's just a much more formative time of your life where you're open to that kind of stuff. So that's all it is. I mean, every generation just takes a big dump on the previous generation's music, and that's life. I mean, just like, I'm not sure how old you are, Nick. So if you're saying here that famous rock before a certain era. So I'm assuming you're talking about sort of 60s, 70s rock. So I'm guessing that's what you listen to when you're in high school. Hopefully that's a respectful answer, but I just find that's just the way. But of course, I'm really happy to look at it now. With the Led Zeppelin, Rush, not a band here. They didn't make it to New Zealand. Led Zeppelin did make it here, and there's a cult following here of people who really like Led Zeppelin. But yeah, it's just not what I was listening to when I was a teenager. That was long gone before I was really aware of music. Brian Tops, you did Matt Halpern, Steph Brox, Richie Martinez, Jay Postones. Did I do Jay Postones? Luke Holland, and so many awesome prog drummers, but I got one and you will enjoy him a lot. His name is Nathan Buller, and his band Auras song is called Key Miracle. Thanks so much, Brian. It's not really a question, I guess. But I hope to check out that drummer in that band at some point. Mark Turcotte, why some drummers tilt their snare to an angle? Now that is a very intelligent and insightful question. Hold on. Now, I recently did the Rod Morgenstein video, and that was like a 80s 90s style rock, and without sort of recalling or remembering the angle of his snare, I'm guessing it was probably towards him like this. Now a lot of the guys in the 80s were angling the snare sort of this way, and that just comes down to how you want to hit the snare, what part of the surface you want to hit. Do you want to just hit it dead center with the bead of your stick? Or do you want to rim shot it? Now, if you're not sure what a rim shot is when you basically, pretend this is a drumstick. When you hit the snare and the rim at the same time, and it gives a really crisp crack. So you can think of guys like Gavin Harrison who get that sound. So it all depends on how you hit the drums, how tall you are, the length of your arms, a lot of different factors, how high you sit. That's going to dictate, along with the sound you want, what angle you have your snare on. Now you might notice with a lot of the jazz guys, they have what we call a rake, which is when the snare is actually angled away from the player. And that, as far as I know, don't quote me on this, but as far as I know, that goes back to the old marching days when the drum would be strapped around the drummer and leaning up against their side. Well, it's actually the other side, but snare is essentially, wrapped around you like this and leaning against you. The only way you can hit it with one of the hands is traditional grip. And that is, as far as I know, where traditional grip came from. It was just how they had to hit the snare, or else they wouldn't actually be able to hit it. So yeah, there's just a lot of things that can go into your question there. Why some drummers tilt their snare to an angle. I'm sure a lot of drummers don't even know why they tilt their snare. They just do it, or they saw maybe their favorite drummer is Chad Smith and they angled it just like Chad Smith. I mean, that's the kind of thing I did when I started out. I'll just copy someone. And then you start to realize, okay, I need to actually angle the snare so it's going to help me to hit it and achieve the sound I want. Hopefully that answers your question. That's a really good one, Mark. Jorge Lyon. Looking sharp in that chili hoodie. Hey, thanks, man. I've been watching your channel and sometimes you speak in Spanish. Do you have some connection with Chile or South America? Jorge, gracias por tu comentario. Mi esposa es chilena y por eso a veces hablo en castellano. All right, next question is from he. You need to check out the drummer from Mayhem. He goes by Hell Hammer. Now, Hell Hammer, that rings a bell. I think I've done a video by a Hell Hammer. Help me out, fam. I hate that word. I hate the word fam. Help me out, fam. What is Hell Hammer's name? He wasn't born Hell Hammer. I'm going to call him Hell Hammer. That drummer, I think I have done a video of that guy. The drummer of Ulcerate and the drummer of Cryptopsy. Now, the drummer of Ulcerate, Jamie St. Marat, I've done a couple of podcast episodes with Jamie. So for now, you can check those out. I've talked to Jamie actually about potentially doing a few reactions on his videos. We'll see what happens on that one. Stay tuned. Oh boy, I love this question. It's from XX Run Death XX. Why haven't you done a reaction to Kerem Kremlechny yet? Songs like Destroy, Replace, Create, or something else? I love this question because this came in literally, I think, the day before I did actually post a Kerem Lechner video. He was freaking awesome. I can't wait to get to the next one. The Skyly. With experience as a professional drummer before teaching, what are some road bumps you came across in the pros that you haven't had an opportunity to talk about on the channel? How did overcoming the challenge make you feel more confident in yourself afterwards? Boy, we're getting into the serious stuff now. You might like, I'm going to be doing an upcoming series, I think. Well, I'll see how the first one goes, and then, if there's demand, I'll keep doing them. But I'm going to start talking about things I learnt at jazz school or music school. And it's going to be this kind of stuff. I guess it's a little bit different, as a working player. You're talking about as a working player, what were some of the challenges? Oh, look, I think it is just that it's actually a lot harder than it seems from the outside. It seems like just a big party. Like if you're not a full-time drummer, you look at the guys that are working all the time and you think, oh, they're lucky or they're talented or whatever. But what you're not seeing is all the failure and all the heartache, really. I mean, could get into, auditions that I failed, or there was one pretty bad one where I got dropped from a gig, just cold dropped. And, this was pretty early on and it was really hard to take. And I remember thinking at the time, it was so hard at the time that I just remember thinking, I'm not cut out for this. Like, I'm not a drummer. I'm not cut out for this. And then the answer, of course, is, if you're going to carry on, you might just have to work harder. You might just have to raise your standards, surround yourself with a better group of, people of influence. And yeah, these kind of things inspired me to actually go to music school. So in terms of being a pro drummer before teaching, I actually taught almost the whole way through. I think I'm a pretty personable person. Is that even a thing? Personable person? I actually feel like I'm a better teacher than a player. So I have been teaching almost the whole time I've been playing, in a way. Not to the degree that I teach now, like 6 days a week, but I was always, just teaching friends or teaching children of friends and stuff like that. So I think it's just the constant realizations and improvements that you need, and how you handle the rejections and the disappointments. I think that's been the big one. My friend Mats Schweiger. What happened to the funny drum videos you were asking people to suggest? Absolutely right, Mats. You've got me there. I did do a video on, I think it was the Korean drummer. I love that video. And the drummer at the wrong gig, our friend Steve Moore. Another awesome one. Just such a great laugh, and what a performer as well. And I asked around that time, what are some other ones? Hit me with some other recommendations. And again, it's just come down to the time to do these things, man. Like, I've got so many requests that my priority is just getting these requests done. I just feel so bad keeping people waiting. So that's all it is. If I can get it under control, I will certainly be doing stuff like more funny drum videos, because I love that stuff. All right, Rob Shedden-Helm. Hello, Mr. Rooney. Been a subscriber for a few what? And viewer, I'm always hitting the like button, and oh, Van Dam. I would like to react to you playing your kit with your favorite snare. You can pick what to play, hopefully. I think we need a few full stops in here, Rob. I would like to react to you playing your kit with your favorite snare. You can pick what to play, hopefully an original, so I may get into the reaction game. Oh, okay, you want to react to me? By all means, go for it. I would love that. Thanks for introducing me to your wisdom, experience, and a lot of gifted, talented, put in the practice time, amazing drummers. It's absolutely my pleasure, Rob. Now, I'm struggling to find the question. I'm not sure if there is a question here. Can't see any question marks. I really appreciate the comment, Rob. But yeah, if the question is, can you react to me? Yeah, you go for it, man. You do your thing. Hypnosis 420. Hey, Andrew, glad I'm one of the 7%. Now, one of the 7%. Now, one of the 7%, he's referring to the subscriber ratio, which is absolutely atrocious. So it's only about 7% of people who watch my channel are actually subscribed. So yeah, hey, thank you, Hypnosis420, for subscribing. He's got four questions here. What's your favorite podcast to listen to? Non-musical podcast. I think the greatest podcast of all time is Hardcore History by Dan Carlin. That is just absolutely amazing. I also really dig the Tim Ferriss podcast. I think that's a really good one too. 2, do you have a few new bands you listen to a lot since starting the reaction series? Ooh, now I've got to confess here, no. Now, it's not because I don't want to, it's because I'm just literally so busy. I'm a really busy guy, man. And there's a lot of bands on the list. I mean, I need to go back and really dig into a lot of these groups. One day when I don't have quite as much on my plate. 3, do you surf? No. 4, do you eat wild game? No. If so, what kind? No. All right, next question is from the best handle in YouTube history, Make Orwell Fiction Again. How many snares do you own? And bonus question, what is your favorite and favorite kit setup? All right, now we're talking gear. So I personally own 3 snare drums. They're all aluminium or aluminum if you're from the United States. They are a Ludwig Acrolite, Yamaha Stage Custom, and a Ludwig Supraphonic. Now you might notice all kinds of madness going on with the snare here on my reaction set. Now those are from the place that I work, where I teach out of a friend's building, and he's got a monster collection of drums. I think he's got about 30 something drum kits and a whole ton of snares on top of that. Some really nice ones too. So I just like to accessorize and keep it interesting. Hopefully everyone's drooling over the different snares that are sitting here. My favorite, now that is actually quite easy, Ludwig Supraphonic. Favorite kit setup, that's also easy, 4-piece with 2 crashes. Kick, single pedal, snare, tom, 1 up, 1 down, ride, hi-hats, crash. That's all I need. Perhaps a tambourine to add in, but that's about it. Dave Madman. Hi Andrew, what's your take on Tommy Aldridge? I don't know who Tommy Aldridge is. Tommy Aldridge is an American heavy metal and hard rock drummer. Is noted for his work with numerous bands and artists since the 70s, such as Black Oak, Arkansas. Is that word Arkansas or Arkansas? I've never known. I've never heard of that band, by the way. Pat Travers Band, never heard of them either. Ozzy Osbourne, yeah. Gary Moore, Whitesnake, Ted Nugent, Thin Lizzy, Vinnie Moore, and Yngwie Malmsteen. Okay, no, I can't say too much about Tommy Aldridge. I would have to watch one of his videos, I think. But yeah, Ozzy Osbourne, he must be a terrific drummer if he's playing for these bands. I mean, he must have been like a go-to session heavy rock drummer of the day. So I'm assuming he is rather good. All right, Adam Lowry. Hey, Rooney. I like that. You can call me Rooney. I just snagged my first kit and I'm head over heels for the extreme metal stuff, but want to keep away from a double pedal until I'm more fluent with a jazzier style of playing, as I see it as an excellent complementary style to death metal. Any tips or artists I should be on the lookout for? Yeah, so my background, I guess, is in jazz to some degree. I did the jazz degree at Auckland University. And a good place to start, I think, is always Miles Davis. The Kind of Blue album is really iconic, partly because it's quite easily digestible. Like it's a really easy gateway drug into jazz. Some jazz can get very, very out there and just it would be too hard to start with it. So that's a really good album to start with. And it's relatively easy listening. You could put it on in the house and just sort of potter around. The John Coltrane stuff as well. I think before that, recording technology was just not as developed and it will be a bit of a tough listen. It's actually quite difficult in some of the older recordings to actually even hear what the drums are doing. But the drums were recorded really nicely and very cleanly, from the 50s onwards. So I would go for Miles Davis, 50s or 60s Miles Davis. There you go. Rob Gass, my buddy Rob. Hey Andrew, how many snares do you have? Do you change them out for each video? What would be your first question to Gavin Harrison? Are you actually powered by coffee, Van Damme, memes, and dad jokes? I'll start at the end. Yes, I am powered by coffee. Van Damme is very important in my life. And yep, dad jokes also. So as I said, I answered in one of the other questions. I've got 3 snare drums. I don't change them out for each video. I change them out probably about every fourth or fifth video just to keep it interesting and give you something a little bit different to look at. Now, my first question for Gavin Harrison. I don't know, anyone I'd be interviewing at the moment. I haven't done a podcast episode for a long time, since I think August. My last podcast episode, I think, was with Benny Greb, but I haven't done one since that. My first question to any drummer at the moment would be just how they're doing at the moment. How are they surviving at the moment with no touring? That would be one thing. Obviously, that leads into teaching, and wouldn't be the first question, but I'd be very curious with Gavin Harrison to talk about failure. I love talking about failure on the podcast with great drummers and just hearing stories. It just makes them much more human and relatable if you can hear them talk about times that they've failed. We think of these super drummers as just inhuman and, they've never played a bad note, and it's just not the case. So I'd ask him specifically about some failures that had a big impact on him and sort of what he learned from those. Benny Key, what kind of mean, horrible people are not pressing the subscribe button? For God's sake, I just smashed it already. It's one tiny click. Holy crap, people, support this man. He's shown me so many awesome drummers that I would not have heard about otherwise. Like and subscribe, people. Benny, power to the people. I don't know what is holding some people back. I think some people just want to watch the world burn. Mikhail Herbertson. Yeah, here's a question. Would you please review my pick for the most technically proficient drummer of all time? His name is Ken Badine from the band Aborted. Seriously, this guy is beeping phenomenal. He has been known to play entire gigs in Crocs. What? Come on now. Insanely fast, technical, groovy, accurate, and even 66 Seamus won't cover his stuff because it's just far too difficult. Now, have I done Ken Badine? I'm getting really confused at this point. Maybe I haven't. Either way, I'm hearing a lot about the 66 Seamus guy too. I need to look at him. Ken Badine, I'm sure I will get to him sooner or later. Mikhail, thank you so much. DK, answer me. Are you going to do Spirit of the Radio isolated video or not? You asked if you could watch what he is doing. I told you about the video in the answer to your question. Why do you keep ignoring me? Look, DK, and anyone who thinks I'm ignoring them, I feel like I actually do a pretty good job. I dedicate a chunk of time each day to actually answering people. Am I going to do Spirit of Radio isolated video? Well, I've done Spirit of the Radio and I did Spirit of the Radio isolated, and now Spirit of Radio isolated but in concert. 3 videos on the same song might be pushing it. Now, I did the 2 because those were a request, so I do the requests. Yeah, I agree. It probably might have worked out better if I'd done the isolated with the image, with the video of him actually playing. I totally get that. But to go now and do 3 videos on the same song, I mean, maybe. We will see. We'll see. Benny Key, if you had to choose drums or coffee, what drum would you buy with all that extra coffee money? It's got to be a Black Beauty. I've got to get myself a Black Beauty with brass hardware, I think. Christopher Shapert. Chapter. What's the best New Zealand coffee that could be shipped to North America? That one's pretty easy. Well, actually, I'm liking Jed's coffee at the moment, but there is a local guy. I think the place is called Coffee to Wake the Dead, and that is the best I've had. Funny story, we were down on holiday in a place called Rotorua, central North Island of New Zealand, and we got a coffee from this like pop-up coffee, these trailer places that just pop up and they do coffee out the trailer. And it was so good. I had to ask the guy, what kind of coffee is this, man? Like, what is this? And it was this place, Coffee to Wake the Dead, which happened to be about 5 minutes drive from my house where I actually live. So yeah, the coffee was right under my nose and I didn't know about the place, and it is pretty sensational. Benny Key again. Hello, Andrew. Is there any drummer that you wish you had seen live but never got to see? Mine is Bonham. Ooh, yes. It would have to be Jeff Porcaro, number one. I mean, I can't believe I never got to see him play. But also Tony Thompson. I would love to have seen Tony Thompson live. Just the power of that guy and the pocket would have been something to behold. Final question from patron Thorn. Mr. Rooney, with all these reactions and analysing of different drummers, would you consider learning these techniques, hand and foot techniques, and applying them when you play drums or teach people to play drums? South African viewer here. Hello. Yeah, I think I sort of addressed this in one of the other questions where I said it has really sort of made me think a little bit different about how I teach. I get a lot of technical questions, but I've never thought of myself as much of a technical player. So it actually has really made me think twice about that. And I'm looking at the moment to upskill in various areas, just with some of the more complex elements, just so I've got really good headroom when I'm teaching and I can answer anything thoroughly and not just give like a carbon copy template answer of what worked for me. So students get really sidetracked with all the technique stuff. They often think figuring out the right technique is the shortcut or the secret to getting where they want to get, whereas actually it's just the vehicle, and no matter what technique you go for, you're still going to have to do the work. So I always do like to stress that. But yeah, some of these extreme drummers have really made me want to delve deeper into metric modulation, polyrhythm. Yeah, some of the foot technique and hand technique, is pretty mind-blowing. So we will see. I mean, I work on that stuff every day anyway, so yeah. But no, it definitely has opened up my eyes and given me a new respect for those type of players. And yeah, it has actually pushed me to start looking at more complex aspects of drumming in order to pass that on to my students. Whew, that is all. Thank you so much for the amazing questions. If you dug this, let me know in the comments, and we will see what the reaction is to this video. And if people like it and if people have more questions, I might consider doing another one in the future. We'll just see how it goes. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe, hit the like button, and I'll catch you next time. Ciao.